Have you ever wondered where real wisdom actually comes from? We tend to look for it in these big, complicated places like ancient books or university lectures. But what if the clearest guide to communicating better was hiding in plain sight? What if we found it in a sixth grade English worksheet?
This one simple line, and this is straight from our source material today, it just gets right to the heart of a problem we all face. The world is so loud, right? It's constantly shouting for our attention. So how are we supposed to actually listen?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for this explainer, the answer comes from a place you'd probably never expect. We're going to unpack a simple school worksheet and see what it can teach us about communicating with real wisdom.
So here it is. Our guide for today is literally an English worksheet for a sixth grader. And yeah, it's got all the usual stuff: vocabulary, editing, reflection, but woven through it all is this really powerful lesson on the art of listening.
Okay, so before we can even start to put wise communication into practice, the worksheet gives us 5 essential concepts we've got to master. You can think of these as the basic building blocks for everything that comes next.
First up is the word discern. Now, this is about more than just hearing words. It's about seeing things clearly, recognizing what's actually true. It's kind of like filtering out all the static in a conversation to find the real signal.
And what's really interesting here is that this whole idea of discernment isn't just a gut feeling. The worksheet insists that it has to be based on our second tool, evidence. This is the hard information, the facts that take you from just having an opinion to actually understanding something.
Of course, let's be real, not all communication is honest. So the worksheet also gives us the complete opposite of discerning the truth, and that's to deceive. And notice, this isn't just about being wrong by accident. It's the intentional act of tricking someone, of leading them away from what's real. So what's the positive alternative to all that deception? Well, that's our fourth tool, to persuade. And the worksheet makes a really crucial point here. This isn't about manipulation. It's about building a case using solid reasoning and that evidence we just talked about, all to guide someone toward the truth.
And all of this leads us to the final and maybe the most important tool, being wise. The worksheet defines this as simply the ability to make good, thoughtful decisions. So you see, wisdom isn't just some vague, abstract idea. It's the direct result of using all the other tools. You discern the truth, you base it on evidence, and then you communicate it with honest persuasion.
Okay, so let's dive into this. We've got the definitions down, but how does this stuff actually work in the real world? Well, the worksheet gives us this great little story, tucked inside a paragraph editing exercise that shows these ideas in action perfectly. Here's the original text, typos and all. Now, instead of just getting out a red pen to fix the grammar, let's look at this as a tiny little story. It's basically a case study about a person named Mia and how she actually practices wise communication. And it just illustrates the whole process so brilliantly. When we break down what Mia does, you see this really clear pattern. She listens first. She doesn't rush. She studies the evidence. And only then does she speak. And she does it with kindness. Her wisdom wasn't just in what she said, but in the entire process that happened before she even spoke a word. So now, let's see how this very practical example starts to build into a much deeper philosophy. The worksheet doesn't just stop with how to listen. It pushes us to ask why it matters, to really think about our own habits.
These are the actual reflection questions the sixth graders were supposed to answer. But they're pretty powerful prompts for any of us, aren't they? They shift the whole focus from just fixing grammar to really internalizing the message, thinking about our tone, our intentions, and our own responsibility in a conversation.
The worksheet, which seems to come from a moral or philosophical viewpoint, then includes this quote, and it's presented as a really central piece of its philosophy. The line itself is from the Gospel of Mark, but the worksheet offers a very specific way to understand it.
And here's the key. According to our source material, this whole idea of ears to hear isn't about the physical act of hearing sound at all. It's about a deeper internal attitude, a willingness in your heart to actually receive and respond to what is true. So, after all the definitions, the case study, and the philosophy, what's the one single core lesson that we're supposed to take away from this surprisingly profound sixth grade worksheet?
And here it is. The worksheet calls this its truth to remember, and it just summarizes the entire lesson perfectly. It's such a powerful reminder that making a real impact doesn't come from your volume. It comes from that deliberate, thoughtful, and kind process of listening first.
So, as we close this out, the worksheet kind of leaves us with the final, unspoken question. In a world that is just full of noise, are you going to be the loudest voice or the wisest? In your next conversation, which one will you choose to be?